and hear what we're about.
Like nothing happens.
We've had,
you know?
I was gonna say
but
we've had things that haven't.
That's okay.
Well. Yeah,
you know, because we move on right from it.
Able to even do that? Like, how did you?
I think failing. You know,
so like you just kind of became inoculated to it to a degree where you had enough success that was like, no, I need to try these things.
Man, I'll tell you. You rolling? We can go right into it. I would say, like in business, I have failed miserably over the years. And before I got into like the gym business,
okay,
through just various opportunities, not. I think wanting to do it so perfect that in the end, I've messed this all up, Dustin. I think I knocked my bracket loose.
that's all right. You're aggressive.
I did. Start using my hands.
Dude, I love it.
I think
Leave it to the producer.
there we go. I think I'm back. I don't know what I got going on here.
Hey, it's all right.
Speaking of failing.
Hey.
But I think messing up and then really beating myself up to where I got so down on my luck, and then for a little while I blamed like circumstances and people and
You
blamed that, you know, if I hadn't been in that situation, that would have never happened, or if I hadn't have done this, or if somebody told me about that, I would have never, you know, went down this road. And I think it was just immaturity, you know, like because I didn't know what I was getting into. I had to learn really some hard lessons, you know, by making some like pretty critical mistakes that I had to just work through. And I think that's where the growth came, you know, for me. Was there was no way out for me. Nobody was going to bail me out.
Okay.
You know, nobody was going to step in and take it over. Like I had made my bed and I was going to have to like lay in it and work through it. And that's when I think I moved away from, no, it's not anybody else's fault. You know, it's not the advice that I got or didn't get that landed me in the position that I was in. This was just a part of my journey, you know, and I was going to take away the things that I had learned, which, you know, had became very evident to me. Like I knew where I had messed up, you know, in business or even personally. And so I just decided that I'm going to take ownership, and I'm the only one that can redirect it, or I can lay in this like self-pity and, you know, and make excuses and probably keep just duplicating the same mistakes over and over because I just didn't want to take any, you know, real ownership for it. And also, too, when you asked me the question, tell them the topic for today.
Oh, so what have you changed your mind about? Welcome back to Armor Radio. But Dusty, I've never seen you do what you're talking about. I've never seen you place blame, first off. I've never seen you not willing to try. So that has definitely changed. My question after hearing that, though, is do you have to just get kicked in the teeth? So so everybody always says, like, if you were going to go back in 10 years and tell yourself something or other, okay, cool. Would that work? Like, do you have to learn the hard way?
I think for me, my personality, I guess I did.
Do you think
I don't think everybody does. No, because I watch people that, you know,
do you think they just hide it well?
Maybe okay. They seem to be wildly successful, and it's like, you know, for whatever reason, maybe you just got it, you know, or maybe you did learn some lessons early on that helped them position themselves differently. But, you know, for me, I don't know, I tend to be pretty like stubborn, I would say. And so, and I think as I age and hopefully continue to mature, I'm not as stubborn, and I try to be very open-minded, whereas I think 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I kind of thought like I know what needs to be done, and I know how this is supposed to go. And it was kind of one of those like, I'll just fake it until I make it, type scenarios.
Yeah. And
so sometimes it would, and sometimes it, wouldn't work out too well. But I think when you said like, what's some things that I've changed my mind about?
Yeah. So over time, what have you either done a complete 180 about, or it doesn't have to necessarily be fitness?
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Well, I think one of the big things is like, that, well, you hear it. If you don't take care of yourself, nobody will. Nobody else is going to.
Okay.
And I think early on in business, like I kind of felt that, as not necessarily this business, but in other businesses as they grew, you kind of felt like that everybody was there just kind of for their own benefit, and
that's what you did feel like?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it made me probably try to protect myself even more,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
And to where I did kind of take on that, well, yeah, I guess that is true. If I don't like look out for, what's in the best interest of me, then nobody else is going to. But I think as time has went on, that's shifted for me. And so I don't feel like that, anymore. I think one of the big things that we've tried to do at both facilities is really create a culture and an atmosphere that is very, I guess, conducive for growth, where people can explore opportunities and do new things, and really like, whatever it is that you want, we want to help really come alongside and help you get there, and it not being something where it's all about what can we benefit from it. Sometimes we may not benefit at all, but what happens is we give something to somebody that they benefit from. And I think as time has went on, I see that probably as being more valuable than the bottom line, in some points. And that can be within our own team or even in our customers. It's just that when you pour into people, it becomes one of these things that's reciprocated, when you pour in, you get poured into. And so that's a different like a mindset, and I think very different from kind of socially, what's around us now. We always hear like, you got to take care of yourself. You got to self-care, all these things. And it's like, man, I don't know about you, but I don't have to like be intentional about thinking about myself. I have to be intentional about thinking not about right. Yep. So,
what changed that though? So like, did you just keep hitting your head up against the wall, and then eventually you're like, well, I either do this, or was there an inciting incident that you were like, man, this really is, this does feel better?
I think honestly, man, it's just when you get down to like where you saw, I could have seen what things could have been, and then kind of how it turned out, and if I had taken a little bit of a different approach and allowed more things to kind of manifest themselves, I couldn't help but wonder like how different things might have been. And so I think that's when I got an opportunity to with the gym operating, owning a gym was something that I had basically wanted to do since I was, I don't know, early 20s. It was, and you kind of dream about it, and not knowing how I was going to get there or when that time was going to come, or if that was something that was going to come, later in life as kind of like a little side gig, hobby type thing. But and looking at all these different types of gyms, where it be 24 hour, all these different concepts. When I finally landed on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, I just saw it as an opportunity to like, hey, you can take all the things that you've learned up to this point, and you can implement that, and see now you kind of got a second chance here, to take some hard lessons.
How old were you when you opened the gym the first time?
I was 31.
So you were maybe thinking about it for at least 10 years before that?
Yeah, and really, like, I would say, like, close to doing it probably 2 or 3 times, in my late 20s, like had leases in my hand and just couldn't get it to, I just, for whatever reason, didn't feel like it was the right time,
What is that openness that you've changed your mind about, and being more either open to people or pouring more into people has done? How do you protect that? So I can't imagine that everybody that comes your way is not, trying to do positive things. There's got to be some stuff that comes in there.
Well, I think it's just being okay to let it go. Let just say, hey, this is not going to work, and that's okay.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that you're a bad person or your idea is bad or whatever. It just means that this relationship it's not one that I think it works for either person. It's best if we move on and we can support each other.
So that's the maturity. You're almost looking at it like you may be on a different level, not in a looking down upon way, but you may be on a little bit of a different level, and they're just not there yet.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
And I totally get that, and I don't want to, I try not to even demean people to say, like, well, you're just not maybe there from a maturity, or you need to learn some, more lessons. But that's how I've arrived at the point that I'm, at is I've made some mistakes. I've done some things, and this is, at this point in time, this is what I believe is the best approach, or the best direction for us.
That's why I keep asking about that. Like, do you have to get kicked in the teeth first? It's like that. What is it? Strong or hard times create hard people.
Yeah.
Weak times.
Well, and I think that's something
people.
that's tricky too, because there was definitely a season for me where I did harden up a little bit to where I'll tell you that, for example, in exploring the whole gym concepts, I like the idea of a 24/7 concept because I saw it as not needing a lot of personnel.
Okay. Yep.
So I was like, this seems like less of a headache, so to speak, because I don't have, I'm not going to need an enormous amount of, employees.
I think most people that buy into a franchise like that think the exact same thing.
Yeah. And maybe not as much work from a relational standpoint, it's kind of like, hey, you come and go whenever you want, and we don't ever have to really have any interaction,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so that early on, I think that was probably appealing to me, just because of just some things that I had happen where I was like, I don't want deep relationships,
Yeah. Well, even that, it does seem easier.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, and then you see a lot of them are not particularly successful.
Well, and I think because of that, because as soon as the next thing pops up, there's no connection, there's no community, culture. So it's just going to be kind of on to the next, place.
Yeah.
And so that's the question that I had to ask myself: is that, do you want to be that? Do you just want to be kind of the next place, or do you really want to build a community and impact lives and be a part of people's life for years,
Oh, yeah.
And that's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
Sometimes
when you really take ownership for that, that's a big deal.
Yeah, you got to know, I think, what you're signing up for, But I think that's also, that's like the title of coach. Mm-hmm. When you put coach in front of your name or on your back or wherever it might be on your business card, it's like, coach, that one, there comes some responsibility with it,
100%.
And because whether you've earned it or not, you kind of get moved up in somebody's life to an elevated status to where there's some, you earn some instant respect. even
if it's
ownership,
unwarranted.
even
Even if it's
ownership.
unwarranted. Yep.
You know, it's like as a owner, the same thing. And yeah, whether you know even the place that you hold in somebody's life,
Yep.
like you got to be ready for it, you know,
Yeah.
and make sure that you know what you're getting into.
And I think coaches hearing that too, that'd be a good test. Like if you're not a little bit uneasy or afraid of approaching some of these topics or issues, or even just people in general, then maybe you don't care enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this for 22 years, and I still am like, I'm always wondering if I'm doing the right thing. I'm always wondering if I could do more. I'm always wondering if it should be less. What's the appropriate way to talk to this person for today?
Yep.
What do they need right here and now? And I feel like if a lot of coaches aren't really thinking through a lot of those things, they're really missing out on the impact that they can make. Because like you said, I mean, you have your spouse, you have your family, and then who else do you see all the time? Who do you see in your life that pours 100% into you?
Yeah.
That is very rare.
It is very
And
rare.
a coach is there to improve you.
And they know a lot about you.
Oh, 100%.
And they can tell when you're not yourself, you know.
100%. Yep.
So that's how the relationship it definitely deepens, because they start to understand a lot of little like nuances about you
That's
that
true.
you know probably only really close folks in your
Yep.
life would know.
And but I mean, I don't want to say it's their job, but it is our job
Oh.
to be able to spot all of those. Like you're looking for those tells and you're looking for those signals to know when you're either pushing too much, or maybe today is not the day that they need this kind of a coach. Maybe it's this kind of a coach.
Well, and I think that's the other thing. That's another one of those things that I've learned that I've probably changed my mind on a little bit over time is it's not necessarily the like what I'm doing, but it's the why am I doing it. So today,
Can you give me an example?
it might not be the program that we're doing, because today may be one of those moments where it's like, no, you need to be heard, you know? Mm-hmm. And so we may not get as in-depth into the whole movement side of things, but there's this personal connection that happens to where, and maybe I'm not saying anything, I'm just listening.
Yeah.
I give you an example of like, I think last week I had a session with a client where she unloaded on me about all these different
In her
things,
life.
that were going on, and then I got to like, I don't know, halfway into the session, and she apologized to me and said like, I'm so sorry that I've like done this and said all these things. I should not be like telling you this. And I'm like, no, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Like this helps me understand, you know, a little bit more about like what you've got going on, and maybe why you have it, you know, going on.
Yeah. And the reason, the way you've changed your mind is beforehand, you would have had your program written down and you would have done that.
Yeah, and let's get to it and just compress that stuff, you know.
Okay.
And I didn't have answers. It's not like I'm a psychiatrist and, you know, I can offer up all these solutions. I just listened.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, and I just provided an ear. And to be honest with you, I can't recall 90% of the things that like were even said.
Yeah.
Because that's not the important part. You know, it wasn't that I
probably can't
remembered
either.
all the details.
Yeah.
But she just needed to like get this stuff off of her, and I was just a sounding board, you know. And so I heard what needed to be heard, basically that she was kind of just struggling, and she needed to really just talk through something.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't that I had like some grandiose solution, you know.
But you're also not commiserating, but you are letting somebody find a solution by using you as a backdrop for
and
that.
I'm not trying to validate even her to say like, you know what, you're right. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't. I there's no sides taken or anything like that. It's just
Now,
listening.
an athlete listening to this that maybe doesn't have a coach, maybe how could they apply that? Would it be something like, today I'm supposed to do a 5x5 back squat? That should be terrifying because that is really hard if you're doing it correctly.
Yep.
But today you have all this other stuff on you. Maybe that's time that something like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's okay to maybe change the plan and then come back and fight another day.
Well, 100%. I think change the plan, and if you don't have that person that you can maybe like sound off to, then how about you grab a journal and just
that's good.
write some stuff down, and that
that's
way
good.
you're getting it off.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
you're not. There's no sides taken, solutions given, or anything like that. But you just you unloaded these things that you're harboring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think then you can move on. Because that's exactly what we did. Is that went on for probably 15 minutes, and then we cut it off and we trained
In fitness.
and then it hasn't been brought back up,
Yeah.
and it won't be.
Yeah.
So it's just we move on, and I think I feel like from a relational standpoint, there's even probably a deeper bond that's built there, trust, and I think that's really important. I think that's where that's some of the big things that again that you learn. And that maybe you change your mind on as time goes on, but it comes down to like values, like trust is big.
Yeah.
You got to be able to trust somebody,
Yeah.
and that's above and beyond like the what,
Yeah.
It's just that I believe that you care about me,
Yeah.
and you believe that I care about you, and so there's this mutual respect and understanding that, hey, we're in this together.
Yeah.
No matter what the coach, athlete, whatever that role may be, employee, employer, but that there's that it's built on some like core values.
Yeah. And I think we went through it quickly, but it's important that you can change your mind.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be. I think that's part of growth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't changed your mind, then maybe you're not growing.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just kind of stuck in some old like patterns and habits. Because I'd like to think that that I have changed a lot of a lot of things. I mean, there was a time when I thought like missing a workout would completely derail a cycle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or getting sick. It's like, being so diligent about not getting sick because it's like, I can't afford to have a, week off or whatever. And I think as time goes on, you realize that all those things in the big scheme of life, they really don't matter.
Yeah.
You just move on and you get right back to it.
Yeah.
And pick up whatever it is that's going on. Once you're back, you're back.
So with social media today, with all the things that we have and that we're exposed to, generally speaking, we're exposed to the things we already agree with, and there's not really a lot of opportunity to change our minds.
Yeah.
How do you stay in a realm where you're able to even get to that position? Because again, like if you're just looking at the stuff you already agree with, if you're only talking to the people that you already like and that you already have something in common with, how do you get to a place where you're like, I've never even heard that. Obviously, I don't agree with it, but I'm willing to change my mind. I'm willing enough to learn it and then even possibly change my mind.
Well, I think you do have to step outside of your comfort zone on.
How do you do that? Like, just for one thing, I see you still doing fitness differently than what I did a year ago. So that in and of itself is a big deal.
I try to do that because I try as a coach. I might be losing my mic again. As a coach, I want to be constantly learning.
Okay.
And for me, that I love to try new things myself.
Yeah.
To where I have a little bit better understanding of, what it is or why I'm doing it.
Yeah, totally.
And I think one of the things that I've learned is the more uncomfortable it makes me, I need to do it.
And I would assume that you mean more than just fitness.
Yeah. I mean, it could, like recently, I just started snow skiing. My first time out on the ski slopes was a complete disaster.
Okay.
I was on the ground and way more than I was on my feet.
Okay.
And actually I only made 2 trips, I think, down the slope. but the second one ended with me let the skis off and walking down because I was so
Okay.
just ticked off.
Okay. Okay.
My wife, my brother-in-law, they can all attest to it. Yeah. And my brother-in-law was like, I can't believe you're struggling like this. Like how athletic you are. And I just never dreamed in a million years that this was going to be this
that's
difficult
a coach
for
right
you.
there, baby.
Right?
That's a coach, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And even the next morning we wake up and he sends me I turn my phone on and I've got a text message from him that's got a picture of a snow skier that's wrapped up in like the safety fence or whatever that they have.
Wow.
And he goes, "Good morning. Let's play a game. Tell me the first person you think of when you see this picture."
Oh, wow.
And so, but that like challenged me even more because I was like,
So you're motivated with more of the stick than the carrot.
I was
apparently.
like, oh my, I can't, why is this? Like,
Yeah. So that made you go back out and get back on the hill again.
the next morning I was like, I'm out there.
Okay.
And all night long, like I could not sleep because I was just trying to like envision in my mind, like, why can I not turn left? Like I could turn right, but for the love of God, I could not figure out how to turn left.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I'm like, what is going on? And so then in my mind, I start to figure out exactly what I'm doing. And then like understanding that, it's all about edges. And that's how you navigate yourself. So I get back out there and it was a completely different experience. But I think the difficulty of it and the catastrophe that I had in my first experience, it lit a fire in me to be like, no, I'm gonna like if I die out here on this thing, I'm gonna figure out how to do it.
But it's important to note that you were willing to try something you'd never done, which is cool and rare. But after you failed miserably at it, you were willing to go back and do it again.
Yeah, and
That's a big
now
deal.
I'm like 2 months in, and it's probably one of my new favorite,
That's a
like
big deal.
hobbies.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's big. You always should be challenging yourself with new things.
Yeah.
I think that's how I personally continue to grow. And if it really, really makes me uncomfortable, that's a solid sign that it's like, you need to do this, because it's for whatever reason, it's spurring up some like insecurity or in me, and it's like, why, what is going on here? Like, why am I so, and that's one of the questions that my wife asked me, when we were skiing. She's like, why do you think it's so difficult? And I had to really like think through the process, and I was like, I think what's scaring me is I don't know how to stop. So like I get going, right?
Yeah.
And so I need to know how it's going to end before I can figure out like the journey there.
Okay.
That's just how my mind was working on like that particular thing.
Yeah.
And so once I had figured out, okay, all right, now I know how to stop. It made the turns and the journey, a lot more understandable for me.
So if I could compare it to like Olympic lifting, you just had to start to break down the components of the actual lift. Instead of full squat snatching, you had to do a muscle snatch or so on and so forth.
Man, and that's a great example because it's like one of the things that really resonated with me with Olympic lifting was at the USAW like level 1 is the positions. So it's like you go through, okay, so here's where I should be at position 1.
Yep.
Here's where I should be at position 2. And here's position 3.
Yep.
And so when you start to see all these different things and they're broken down into steps, then you can you see the bigger picture and how it's all put together. And that really helped me to understand the movement.
Yeah. Now, so we got pretty broad with some of those. What have you changed your mind about? Do you have anything that's maybe a little bit more specific, maybe very specific in fitness, or oh man, this may be a whole other podcast. But nutrition, is there anything that you've changed your mind about over the years?
Nutrition.
How about one thing instead of
I think with nutrition, the biggest thing that I've changed my mind about is I used to worry so much about fat and carbs.
What do you mean worry?
Well, how much?
Okay. Macros.
How much is too much? How
Okay.
much is enough?
Yep.
Like all those things. Then I realized that just focus on protein
Okay. Yeah.
and not on anything else.
We talked about this before, but how many grams of protein do you take in a day?
Body weight.
Body weight? 1
Yeah.
gram of protein per pound of body weight?
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been doing that, do you know? I mean, talking 5 years, talking 10 years?
Oh, yeah, probably close to 10 years.
Okay. And when you did that, you also tried to get the rest of the macros, carbohydrates, and fat, or you were like, as long as I get the protein piece of it, the other ones kind of fall by the wayside?
No, I've done a little bit of it all. I would say in the last probably like 2 to 3 years is where I've just been. So I tracked macros for a long time,
Okay.
and then decided that I had done that so long that I just wanted to go a little bit more off of intuition, and that's worked, you know.
Yeah. Do you feel like so when you're talking about eating the way that you're describing, more off of how you feel,
Yeah.
do you feel like you already need to be very close, to, if not where you want to be able to make that effective?
I think it's a lot easier, and
Okay.
and tracking macros really helped me because I did it for so long. Like I'd kind of gotten in such a routine that I just knew, you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew what each meal, the kind of the breakdown of how it needed to look, or
But to have that
portion
sort
wise.
of internal barometer, you had to have put in the work on the front end of this is how many carbohydrates. Like you did the tracking, you did the stuff, you earned it.
Yep.
And then later on, you can still reap the rewards of all of the previous foundation you've laid.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like that's with a lot of athletes, and I feel like if you try to just be really like, I'll see how I feel.
Yeah, I think
That
that can
can
be
go-
tough.
that
It
can
just
be.
to see how you feel. But if you have something to compare it to,
Yeah.
then I think it definitely makes it more understandable,
Yeah.
and you can it gives you more direction.
Have you changed your mind about anything that's related to supplements? That would be big for our listeners.
Well, I think that a lot of them are just unnecessary.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
So as time has went on, I've just kind of like narrowed it down. I take some vitamin C,
Okay.
magnesium, and creatine.
Okay. We've talked about that before.
Yep.
But you've tried.
Oh, I've done it all and spent hundreds of dollars, and and then looked in the toilet and
Yeah. Is the gauge for supplements like if it hasn't always been around, or at least for a long time, it's probably not going to be around for a long time.
yes,
So it's just kind of a flash in the pants kind of, because you see a lot of things. I remember 10 years ago, there were so many things that I couldn't even remember what they are today.
Right.
And they were the best thing in the world then.
yeah.
And
Well,
nobody takes them now.
and I think all that stuff is even more like, with social media now. I mean, it's just think about cold plunging in this
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
I mean, how it blew up, and
Yeah.
it's like, it's not like that was something that just started this
Oh, no.
past
I mean,
year.
we were cold plunging and
But all it takes is it like catching some fire
Yeah.
on the internet or social media, and all of a sudden you've got this frenzy of whatever it is,
yeah, legit been doing it for decades.
whatever
Yeah.
supplement,
Yeah.
or thing. And so I think it's just even more
It is cool.
easy to get caught up in whatever the next thing is.
It is, and it's cool that when you have a proliferation of a whole bunch of people doing the thing, you get a lot more money in the thing. Then they study the thing, and
Yeah.
then you may know what the optimized time,
Yeah.
the how, like all of those things are cool, right? Like 20 years ago when we were doing cold plunges, we really didn't know anything other than you got cold and you felt better afterwards,
Right.
And then as the studies start to prevail, no, you need to do it at this point in time. It needs to be this many minutes in a week. Okay, cool. So we do have that, and that's maybe where you can see some of the things unfold. And it's the same with creatine.
Yep.
We knew creatine was great 20 plus years ago.
Oh, I remember in high school. Like,
100%.
that
you knew
was
it was great. You thought you were going to die. Everybody told you you were going to die.
absolutely.
And now today we're like, hey, every people that are retiring should take it for cognitive wellness. There are studies that suggest that. We've known about the muscle building benefits for decades and decades. So the more people that do it, we do get more money into it.
Yep.
And that's nice.
Yeah.
What about just fitness in general? What have you changed your mind about? Any specific thing that our listeners could adopt? Maybe they're still making the same mistakes over and over again.
Well, I think the one thing that, like me personally, something that's changed with me in the last, say, 20 years is as much as my fitness has changed and maybe what I'm doing will kind of shift, I always make sure that I keep a good cardiovascular base. So I'm always doing aerobic training, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think, at times I've shifted into more strength training or I've shifted into all aerobic training, and then I've done a mix. And so now it's like, I don't think that anything, that I've stuck to anything as much as I see the benefits of just overall health in maintaining just a good cardiovascular base.
How do you do that? How do you look at maintaining that? How many days a week do you put time into it? How long does it last?
Yeah, and in the past probably like year and a half, I typically do like 2 to 3 like conditioning Metcon
workouts?
style workouts a week.
Conditioning
and
workouts.
those may range, anywhere from like 8 to 10 minutes up to like 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then I'll typically do something that's a little bit like more zone 1 for like maybe 30 to 40 minutes.
Okay. Got it.
So,
and that's on a weekly basis, and that's pretty much forever and always?
Yeah, and something like just this year that I've started doing is I'm trying to ruck once a week.
Yeah? How do you like that?
Because I'm going to do a go ruck at the end of the month.
Okay. At the end of March?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, so I can let you know how that goes.
What's made you want to get into that?
Just something different. You know, I love being outdoors, and I'm like, all right. So I've done a little bit of it in the past, but
do you just go up a hill? Do you go out a hike? Do you have the?
I think all.
Is it a weight vest? Do you actually have a ruck?
I bought a ruck pack.
Okay.
Which has a like.
Can you tell me the brand?
30-pound. I think it's a Go Ruck.
Ruck?
I got it from Go Ruck. Has a 30-pound plate in it.
Okay.
And so like at this Go Ruck event, you've got the 30-pound rucksack.
Yep.
And then whatever supplies that. I think this one that I'm doing is an 8-hour. So whatever supplies you, you're going to take with you.
Where does it go?
This one's in Nashville, and I'm not 100% sure. Like
this
all
isn't
the
one
trains.
that's out like overnight, right? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've seen this. Okay, cool. When is that again?
I think it end of the month. Like
okay.
29th. I can't remember whatever the last Saturday is. But yeah, just doing something different.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with one of the coaches at Raymond yesterday, and he's telling me that he's doing a triathlon. I was like, dude, I love it, because that was something that I did a few years ago too.
Yeah.
And just to do new things, you know.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of training for it, but I didn't like go over the top enough to where I was like, I just want to be able to finish it and do decently well in it.
Well, and we would argue that a lot of our training makes us able to just dive into certain things and at least be adequate without being a specialist.
That's the thing with like snow skiing. I mean, to be able to take up snow skiing at 42 years old, like I'm pretty happy with that.
Do you think that because you're fit and you're active, do you think that actually kind of went against you in this because you thought you should have been a lot better at it?
100%.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, if I can do all these other things, like,
why can't I do this?
Yeah, I'm pissed that I can't ski down this hill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, I could see that going kind of against you a little bit,
Yeah.
where you really think I should
like,
be
how's
good
that
at this.
person doing it and I can't?
Yeah. Or when you go run the marathon and you.
But that's
and there's
good
people out
too,
there
because
doing
that's
that.
humbling. You know, it's like,
yeah.
hey, you're not gonna be able to muscle your way through this. You got to figure it out. There's a skill here, and you need to slow it down and learn the process. So again, that's like things I think that it's humbling, and so I need a good serving of humility, every now and then, and because it's me stepping outside of my comfort zone, being challenged in new ways, and that has led to like. The thing is, it just opens up new opportunities. That's opened up new opportunities even with my kids. That's probably what's been discovered the most is this is the one activity that we do as a family that none of my kids push back on. We say, hey, we're going skiing, and they're like, yes! Everybody's on board with it. Whereas in the past, it wouldn't matter like what it was that we were doing. There was always somebody that was like, do we have to?
Yeah.
But this is the thing that we found as like a family that like everybody's on board with it.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
So wait, though, that means that your boys saw you being bad at this.
Oh, they still poke fun at me. Let's race.
But up until that, they've seen you be very good at things. You're very fit. You coach them in a sport that you played.
Yep.
So not to say that any of that is bad, but I'm just
Right.
saying like they got to see you struggle with something, but then continue it.
And I think that's probably even more fuel for me to like not give up, because I'm sitting there having that conversation with them so much about, hey, we got to do hard things, we got to work through it. And so for them to see me struggling in something, and that he doesn't get this, like actually he's terrible at this, but not giving up, and me even asking them like, hey, like, how do you turn left?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You know? And so I think that definitely has been, it is. It's okay. It's okay for them to see me fail, you know?
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Because I think it helps them to understand, like, when you do fail, that we can work through this together, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not, just because I'm your dad doesn't mean that I'm above asking you for, like, a pointer, you know? On
Yeah, that's big. Yeah, that's big. Dusty, thank you for your time.
Yeah, man. It's good.